Welcome back to our channel, everyone. Imagine living alone deep beneath the waves of an alien ocean, only to discover that you hold the key to stopping a mysterious cosmic threat lurking below. Our protagonist, Jace, faced exactly that, joining forces with 5 alien women to confront a terrifying force known as the Black Tide. Curious how Jace fought to protect an entire world with newfound powers he never imagined? Stay tuned and listen until the end, because the final battle beneath the dark waves will leave you speechless. Before we dive into this thrilling story, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to support our channel and catch more amazing sci-fi adventures. And after listening, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Where are you tuning in from today? Chapter 1, A Green-Blue Solitude. For all the time he'd spent underwater, Jace often forgot how silent the world could be beneath the weight of an alien ocean. The station, a transparent dome reinforced with alloy struts, stood rooted to the seabed of Alara 7 at a depth of roughly 2 kilometers. Everywhere he looked, outside that barrier of glass and steel, stretched a mysterious world of shifting blues, greens, and, at deeper points, utter blackness. He'd grown used to this solitude, having lived alone for nearly 10 months, with no companion but the hum of filtration pumps, the occasional beep of sensor arrays, and his own meandering thoughts. Every day, he performed his assigned tasks, scanning the ocean for chemical anomalies, documenting marine life, maintaining the structural integrity of the dome. It was an uneventful but oddly calming job. Alara 7 was a water planet, more than 90% covered by ocean. A few lumps of land mass existed near the equator, but those were sparsely inhabited. The Planetary Research Institute, seeking to understand how life developed in deep seas, had established a handful of subaquatic observation domes. Jace's station was the southernmost and most remote, located far from the established supply routes. He had volunteered for the position after a messy end to a relationship back on Earth. The quiet, the routine, the sense of wide emptiness had sounded appealing. No people to let him down, no complicated social obligations, just him and an entire ocean to study. But sometimes, at night, Jace would stare through the thick glass and feel a faint pang of loneliness. He'd watch schools of silverfish pass by, glimmering in the station's floodlights, or observe drifting creatures that resembled luminescent jelly pillars, their bodies pulsing with pastel light. On rare evenings, the darkness outside would break into swirls of turquoise, as if the sea itself glowed, reminiscent of stories about Earth's bioluminescent tides. Never in all his months did he imagine anything would break the isolation in a more shocking way, until the day the outside cameras picked up 5 silhouettes in the water. Chapter 2, The Alarm That Changed Everything. When the station's primary alarm blared that evening, Jace first assumed a trifling malfunction. He paused the daily calibration of the oxygen scrubbers and walked over to the main console, scanning the readouts. Sensor arrays typically flagged drifting debris or large fauna, like the bus-sized plankton eaters that occasionally wandered past. Except, the display showed 5 distinct forms, upright, nearly human in shape, approaching from the west. Jace fiddled with the camera feeds, his pulse thrumming. The external spotlights kicked on, slicing golden beams through a swirl of sediment. He stared at the images on the screen. 5 slender silhouettes hovered in the water, close enough to almost press their hands against the dome's outer shell. The shapes were definitely bipedal. Their limbs rippled with faint lines of light, almost like living neon tattoos in shades of cobalt and teal. A chill passed over him. No other humans were stationed here, not for thousands of kilometers. Could they be new deep-sea aliens? Or was this some bizarre visual glitch? An alert beeped as the station recognized pressure changes near the waterlock. One silhouette advanced toward the docking clamp built for submersibles. Jace swallowed. Adrenaline churned in his stomach. His first instinct was to lock down the dome, but curiosity gnawed at him. If these creatures were truly advanced or friendly, shutting them out might be a grave mistake. If they meant harm, well, he had little real defense besides a meager stun baton and the dome's sealed environment. Working on autopilot, he keyed in a secure sequence that allowed partial entrance through the aquatic airlock, a small external bubble that could be flooded or drained independently of the station. He watched the feed, palms sweating. One by one, the figures slipped into the bubble. Their movements were fluid, fish-like, but their bodies remained upright and humanoid. A watery hiss signaled the bubble draining. Then the atmospheric pressure equalized with the station's interior. When the interior hatch slid open, Jace stood in a short corridor, wearing a thick sweater and holding the stun baton behind his back. The corridor lights illuminated 5 beings stepping inside on bare feet. They looked like women, tall, lithe, and with distinctly feminine features, yet their skin glowed in patterned lines, their ears were slightly tapered, their fingers showed a hint of webbing, and a thin membrane circled their necks and jawlines, presumably for breathing underwater. Their hair drifted in airy waves as though it retained the ocean's buoyancy. He found himself speechless. They stared at him with window-weight, dark eyes that shimmered with curiosity. For a fleeting moment, nobody moved. Then, the one in front, her luminous markings swirling like coral vines, pressed a slender hand to the center of her chest and inclined her head. A strange presence brushed across Jace's consciousness, almost like a whisper. He tensed. No audible words had been spoken, yet he understood. "We greet you." Slowly, he lowered the baton. Uh, Hi, he managed, voice cracking. Who are you?" Chapter 3, the Lele introduced themselves. Without speaking aloud, the same presence wove through his mind again. A gentle mental nudge that formed half words, half impressions. Her lips parted, and this time she actually voiced a careful phrase. "We, Lele," she said, the accent lilting, each syllable drawn out. "We, in 5 bodies, share one mind." Her companion stepped forward in near-perfect unison. Jace felt a flicker of panic. He was alone with them, in a pressurized corridor tens of meters below crushing ocean. But their body language radiated no aggression. Instead, there was a serene confidence in their posture. Another tried to speak. "We know your name. Jace, technician. Stay alone." Her speech was obviously challenging for her, yet she managed a coherent sentence. His heart thudded. "How do you—" He caught himself. "Are you telepathic?" A subtle wave of confirmation brushed his thoughts. The first woman with swirling aqua lines on her arms placed a tentative hand on his forearm. That mental echo flared again, an alien calm enveloping him. Jace's tension ebbed. He stepped backward, gesturing for them to follow, leading them out of the narrow corridor and into the station's main living area. This dome wasn't exactly spacious. It had a small lounge with a table and a couple of battered chairs, a cramped galley for preparing freeze-dried meals, and a cluster of consoles overseeing scanning equipment. As they entered, the overhead lights illuminated them more clearly. Their faces were all distinct, yet eerily similar. Same high cheekbones, same color-shifting eyes, same slender build. One difference was the arrangement and hue of the glowing lines that ran across their skin. Some had swirling patterns reminiscent of sea anemones. Others displayed broken geometric shapes that pulsed faintly. With a nervous swallow, Jace motioned for them to sit, or at least gather near the table. "Do you speak standard?" he asked. "I mean, can we talk in normal words?" They exchanged glances. Then the second woman nodded. "We try." The one who had first spoken, he mentally dubbed her the leader, searched for words, still halting. "We come to find you. You are connector, sought you across star lanes. Very far." Jace stared. "Connector? I don't understand." She frowned slightly, as if searching for how to simplify. Finally, her voice hovered in the air, clear but heavily accented. "You both just wanted to help us seal the darkness. Many cycles ago, you are reborn or memory sealed. We follow Trace to this planet." A jolt of disbelief nearly knocked him breathless. "I've never left Alara 7 except for short supply runs. I'm from Earth. I have no clue what you're talking about." Something flickered in her eyes. Empathy, perhaps. She glanced at the others. Their faces carried similar expressions, a mixture of yearning and sorrow. "We can show you," came a gentle, telepathic whisper. "If you permit, we only reveal what is within you." Jace's heart pounded. He had so many questions swirling in his head. Who exactly were they? Were they telling the truth or running some elaborate con? But the sincerity in their stance, combined with that haunting mental resonance, made him hesitate to dismiss them. "All right," he said quietly, but let's do this. Carefully. I don't want to end up with a migraine or something. A faint smile curved the leader's lips. Yes, slowly. She reached out and the others formed a loose circle behind her. Jace swallowed down a bubble of panic as her cool fingertips brushed his temple. The station lights flickered. A subtle hum filled his ears, like the hush of ocean currents. Then his vision blurred. Chapter 4, Glimpses of Another Life. Warm water, massive coral towers, a city of shimmering, living architecture that glowed with luminescent patterns akin to the lines on these women's skin. Through the distortion of memory, Jace saw himself, older or different, wearing some kind of sleek armor. The 5 women too were there, still glowing, still in unison, standing around him on a dais that overlooked an alien ocean floor. He felt the thunder of a menacing, swirling blackness in that water, devouring color and life. The memory battered him with a sense of dread, a swirling darkness that somehow threatened the city, the planet, maybe more. He saw a ritual. He felt streams of energy passing from the 5 into him. He recalled forging that power into a single resonance that repelled the black tide. The vision cracked apart. When he blinked, he found himself back in the dome's lounge. The leader's hand had slipped from his temple, and she stood there, chest heaving, as if exhausted. Jace realized he was on his knees, shaking. "That can't be real," he gasped, trembling. "I've never seen anything like that. And that was me in the vision?" The woman nodded, sadness in her expression. Another behind her whispered telepathically, "We found you. The same spark, the same essence." Jace pressed the heels of his palms into his eyes. He was just a technician, not some cosmic warrior. "This is crazy. Why am I on Ilara 7 with no memory if I supposedly helped you in another life?" They exchanged hesitant looks. Finally, the leader spoke softly. "In that time, the black tide was sealed, but you vanished. We sought you across many star systems. We only find you now." He tried to stand and wobbled. 2 of them reached out to steady him. He noticed how their hands felt, strong but also delicate, with webbing along the fingers. He realized they were likely far more adapted to underwater living than he was. Taking a deep, centering breath, Jace gestured for them all to sit. "You said you found signs that this black tide is stirring here, in Ilara 7's ocean?" The second woman, her markings were shaped like delicate, branching lines along her arms, and bowed her head. "We sense it. Faint cracks in the ocean floor. Dark energies seep. Like a contamination?" he wondered aloud. Then he recalled something in the station's data logs. Recent anomalies in temperature and water chemistry from deeper trenches. He hadn't pinned them down yet. Could that be related? Unnerved, he paced a few steps. "I need to check my readings. If something that big is happening, the instruments might confirm it." The 5 women looked at each other, then back at him. "We help," said the leader. "We must. If black tide emerges fully, it devours life." He frowned. This was all too surreal. Yet their conviction was unshakable, and the memory they'd shown him, no matter how bizarre, lingered in his mind with eerie clarity. "Fine," he said, voice tight. "Come on. The main console's this way." Chapter 5, Collaborating in the Deep. They followed him into the monitoring station, a compact room dominated by screens and readouts, ringed by blinking lights. Jace explained each display in simple terms, aware that their standard was shaky. He started pulling up the last month's scans. As he typed, the 5 women clustered around, gazing intently at the holographic graphs. Occasionally, they would murmur telepathically among themselves, though Jace caught only emotional impressions. Their combined presence was both mesmerizing and slightly claustrophobic. Finally, he highlighted a series of anomalies from the southwestern quadrant of the ocean floor. "Look here," he said, pointing. "These readings imply some kind of chemical seep, elevated sulfur compounds. Changes in temperature that shouldn't exist in a stable region. I was going to schedule a submersible drone run, but I'm just one person, and it's hundreds of kilometers away." The second woman brushed a finger across the hologram. "Where trench deep?" She glanced at him, eyes reflecting the flicker of the data. "We can go. We swim. You can guide from craft." He blinked. "You'd Swim? That's insane. The pressure at that depth can crush a normal sub. Are you sure you can handle that? They nodded in unison as though he had asked something trivial. The leader explained, our bodies adapt. We were shaped on world of heavier oceans. Jace struggled to process that. All right, he managed, but a drone alone won't let me see much. If I want to investigate personally, I'd have to use a small submersible. That's a one-person pod, you realize. The five exchanged quick telepathic glances. Finally, the one with branching lines on her arms, the second speaker, turned to him. We can follow. We do not need craft. He stared. But that far, you might freeze. The water temperature near the ocean floor can be extremely low. You might run out of oxygen. Their faint smiles told him they'd faced worse. We survived many worlds, said the leader quietly. Trust us. Despite his reservations, Jace found himself nodding. Some dormant part of him, the part that glimpsed that long-lost memory, understood they could endure. Then we'll plan for tomorrow, he decided, shutting the monitor down. I need to prep the sub. It's a few hours' journey. If you five want, I can show you around the station or find you somewhere to rest. Their eyes lit up in quiet gratitude. The leader bowed her head. We are thankful, Jace. He guided them through the cramped dome. They displayed open fascination with every mundane object. The low-gravity chairs, the metal sink, the freeze-dried food packs. At one point, one of them touched a glowing control panel and startled as it beeped. She jerked back, startled, eyes wide, and Jace had to stifle a laugh. It's not dangerous, he reassured her. Just a simple console. She tilted her head, a silent question shimmering in her luminous eyes. The mental whisper reached him. Such contraptions, so different from our starship design. Starship. That hammered home how very far from normal they were. Jace shook off the lingering sense of unreality and led them to a spare corner of the main living area. There he'd stored an extra cot. It would be cramped for five, but they insisted they only needed minimal rest. As dusk settled outside, a technical dusk, as the sun's angles shifted in Alara 7's sky, dim light filtered through the ocean's upper layers. Jace watched them gather quietly in the corner. They formed a circle on the floor, closed their eyes, and seemed to hum in unison, a faint musical note that resonated in the station's metal walls. He was about to head to his own bunk when their telepathic whisper drifted into his mind. Good rest, Jace. We watch. A small smile tugged at his lips. You too, he murmured, uncertain if they actually slept. Chapter 6, A Taste of New Possibilities. That night, Jace's dreams were vivid, swirling with half-real images. He saw the underwater city from the memory again, crystal arches and glowing corridors. In the dream, he walked among alien citizens with the five Lalais at his side. He felt a sense of belonging, even love, that he couldn't explain upon waking. He rose early to an odd sight. The five were already up, clustered near the hydroponic corner of the station. They were running their fingertips over the leafy produce. The leader turned, hearing his approach, and offered a small, apologetic shrug. Sorry, she said in halting standard. We sense life here. It is good. Jace rubbed sleep from his eyes and gave a short laugh. It's just kale and tomatoes, but yeah, it's life. He decided to demonstrate how humans typically ate, retrieving a small stash of rehydrated vegetables in a sealed container of cereal. The five studied him as if he were unveiling advanced mathematics. They each tasted a morsel with intense concentration, telepathic curiosity brushing his thoughts. This is how Earth food is? Strange, but interesting. He realized they might need additional sustenance for the upcoming journey. Do you rely on regular food, he asked. Underwater, how do you normally sustain yourselves? The second woman replied quietly, we can extract from water, but your food helps. He nodded. Help yourselves then. Eat more, we'll be gone for hours, maybe longer. While they carefully sampled the rations, Jace gathered his gear in the docking bay, a thermal suit, oxygen backups, the sub's maintenance kit. He wondered if he should bring a weapon, but that felt pointless if they were dealing with a cosmic threat. The stun baton wouldn't make a dent against an ancient black tide. When he was ready, he found the Lalais waiting by the waterlock, faces calm but resolute. They wore their strange, skin-hugging suits, thin but apparently protective. Their bodies seemed to shimmer faintly in the station's artificial lighting. "Let's do this," Jace said, forcing a confidence he didn't quite feel. They nodded. The door slid open with a hiss, and salt water flooded in. Before Jace stepped into his submersible, he watched the five slip gracefully into the water. His heart pounded at the sight. They truly looked in their element, hair drifting behind them, lines on their skin glowing more brightly now that they were submerged. He sealed himself into the sub, a narrow craft about the size of a mini-sub, designed for one occupant. The instrument panel lit up, verifying environment. Then, with a gentle hum, the sub drifted out of the dome's extended docking clamp and into the open ocean. Chapter 7: The Long Descent. Outside, the water felt darker than usual, as though thick clouds above had dimmed the light. Jace flicked on the sub's main headlights. In the distance, he spotted five faint silhouettes weaving through the water. Each silhouette trailed a swirl of bioluminescent wake, their glow painting the gloom in ghostly teal lines. His instruments showed the southwestern trench lay almost 220 kilometers away. At the sub's top speed, that was a multi-hour journey. The Lalay kept pace, occasionally using a form of telepathic ping to let him know they were fine. He checked in on them via the sub's external cameras, half expecting to see them exhausted. Instead, they moved with fluid elegance, seemingly unbothered by the cold or the pressure. Every so often, they would vanish behind rocky outcroppings or drifting clouds of sediment, only to reappear minutes later. They encountered scattered marine life, serpentine eels that glowed in strobing pulses, slow-moving crustaceans with fan-like shells. One large spade-shaped creature drifted closer to the sub, tentacles swirling. Jace marveled. He'd studied these creatures only via remote cameras. Now it felt like traveling through a living tapestry. At last, after hours of monotony, the sub's sensors detected the target region. The trench's edge yawned before them, dropping into a gaping canyon. Jace hovered the sub near the rim, shining lights down. The water below grew blacker still, a bottomless pit. One by one, the Lalay converged around him, luminous eyes reflecting the sub's beams. They reached out telepathically. "We sense it further down, fissure in the seafloor." Jace's stomach tightened. "You sure you're ready?" An affirmative wave of mental calm answered him. He exhaled. "All right, let's descend." The sub's thrusters engaged, and the craft tipped forward into the trench. The Lalay followed, trailing behind like aquatic guardians. As they sank deeper, the pressure soared. Jace's hull sensors beeped with stress warnings. Tiny rivulets of silt drifted past. After another 600 meters of descent, the water temperature began to drop precipitously, close to freezing. Yet the Lalay seemed unfazed. Finally, the sub's exterior floodlights picked up something unusual on the trench floor. A swirl of inky black seeped from a large crack in the rocky bed. The substance glistened as though semi-liquid, forming plumes that waved in the current like strange, smoky tendrils. Jace's console chimed with alerts. The water chemistry was off the charts, sulfur levels spiking, pH dropping unpredictably. Even the sub's Geiger counter registered a faint anomaly. Not full radiation, but some form of exotic energy. He swallowed hard. "Is that the black tide?" "Yes," came their mental chorus, tinged with concern. "It should remain sealed. Something broke the seal. We must see if it is close to awakening." Jace advanced the sub cautiously. A metallic pang hammered his nerves. If that stuff was as dangerous as they claimed, might it lash out? Then again, the Lalay and his half-buried memory insisted only synergy could stop it. Chapter 8: Threads of Memory. They arrived at the trench floor. The sub hovered about 20 meters above the black fissure. Jace's lights illuminated the roiling, inky mass. Occasionally, it bubbled in slow, eerie pulses. The Lalay floated around the sub, scanning the area with outstretched hands, the patterns on their skin flaring brighter each time they drew near the substance. Then Jace felt it, a faint mental hiss, like static inside his brain. The black seep was projecting a presence, hostile, hungry. He recoiled, brow creasing. One of the Lalay placed a hand on the sub's external hull, her telepathic voice trembling slightly. "It stirs. We must reinforce the seal, or it will grow, devour all." "Reinforce how?" Jace whispered, though he realized they could hear him telepathically. The leader approached, gesturing for Jace to open the sub's hatch. He stared, alarmed. That's not safe. Your suit, she reminded him. Your station is prepared for short outside repairs. We must form synergy with you present. Please trust us. He hesitated. The sub was designed for external repairs. He had a pressurized environment suit in a small compartment. Still, stepping out into that cold dark near the black tide was terrifying. But if they were correct, maybe synergy required physical proximity. Fine, you're on, he croaked. I'll suit up. He parked the sub on a relatively flat ledge. Inside, he hurriedly donned the environment suit. Thick polymer layered to withstand pressure, complete with a sealed helmet and an oxygen rebreather. The Lele waited outside, swirling in the water, luminous lines dancing with tension. Once he was fully suited, Jace cycled the airlock. Cold water flooded in, pressing against his body. He gasped. The suit held, the helmet display flicked on, showing oxygen levels stable. Outside was pure blackness, relieved only by the sub's lights and the faint glow from the 5 women. They formed a loose semicircle near the fissure. Jace's boots settled on the trench floor, stirring a cloud of sediment. His head pounded from the pressure, even through the suit's compensators. The Lale's telepathic presence enveloped him, urging calm. He stepped gingerly toward them. They each extended a hand in invitation. As soon as his gloved hands touched theirs, a tide of memory erupted behind his eyes. The city, the ceiling, the sense of cosmic awareness he'd felt fleetingly in the station returned full force. He saw how his presence had once acted as a focal point, a connector, bridging their combined powers to shape an energy that repelled the black tide. Now, at the bottom of Alara 7's ocean, with the black tide roiling mere meters away, he tried to channel that intangible synergy. The Lele closed around him in a circle, each placing a hand on him or on each other. A faint glow blossomed from their patterns, bright enough to cut through the murky water. They began a resonant hum. He felt it more than heard it, a vibration threading through his chest. Then came a mental swirl of voices. Stay steady, Jace. Focus your breath, your intent. We lend you our energy, you shape it. He took ragged breaths, fighting the suit's claustrophobic helmet. Recalling the memory, he envisioned building a barrier of shimmering light. Slowly, a swirl of teal luminescence coalesced around them, thickening until it formed a half-dome between the Lele circle and the black tide. The black mass reacted violently. It trembled and lunged upward in 1,000 writhing tendrils. Jace cried out in alarm as a frigid mental wave battered his psyche. The Lele groaned, their luminescence flickering, but Jace refused to yield. He poured every ounce of concentration into that protective synergy. He thought of the lonely nights he'd spent in the dome, thought of the life he'd discovered in the ocean. He refused to let a malignant force devour it all. Bit by bit, the black tide's thrashing receded, forced back down into the fissure. The swirling plumes lost shape, collapsing into a roiling pool. The synergy's glow intensified, weaving a translucent seal across the cracks in the sea floor. He could almost feel the cosmic lock clicking into place. Finally, with a last pulse of light, the black mass sank, leaving only a faint residue. The fissure sealed, not fully healed, but temporarily contained. In the hush that followed, Jace and the 5 sank to their knees on the rocky seafloor, panting from the mental strain. He felt tears slide down his cheeks inside the helmet. A wave of empathy passed among them. Relief, gratitude, sorrow for the pain of the past. They'd done it, at least for the moment. Chapter 9, shaken but triumphant. Jace's body trembled as he followed the Lele back toward the sub. The synergy had drained him, leaving him woozy. One by one, the 5 helped him into the sub's airlock so he could repressurize. They lingered outside, their luminous markings still bright, as if to reassure him they were well. Once inside, he peeled off the environment suit, breath shuddering. That swirling memory lingered at the edges of his awareness. He now felt certain he'd lived some other existence before. The logic baffled him, but the emotional truth was there. He opened the sub's external speaker, addressing the Lele through the thick plating. Is it over? The leader's mental voice came gently. The seal holds for now. The black tide remains, but it will be dormant if no further cracks form. We must watch. Exhausted relief coursed through him. We'll go back, he croaked. We can monitor this from the station. Keep track of any changes. Short mental pings of agreement followed. The five resumed their loose formation, accompanying the sub as it slowly rose from the trench depths. Jace felt a sense of comfort in their presence. If the synergy truly needed all six of them, they wouldn't let him face it alone. The trip back took hours, but Jace was hardly aware of time. He was too busy replaying the synergy in his mind. There had been a moment during the confrontation when he felt the entire ocean breathing with them, like he'd tapped into something primal and vast. By the time they finally saw the faint glow of the research dome, Jace was running on fumes. He guided the sub into the station's docking clamp, repressurized, and stumbled out. The Lalay followed, stepping gracefully through the draining waterlock, though they too looked weary. Chapter 10, A New Beginning. Safe inside the dome, Jace sank into a chair in the lounge. The Lalay formed a close semicircle around him, their eyes full of gentle concern. "You all right?" the second woman asked in halting standard, her voice tight from the fatigue. He nodded. "Just exhausted." That was intense. They exchanged understanding glances. The leader knelt, lightly resting a hand on his knee. "We have done it before. Still, it is never easy." A faint laugh escaped him. "You mean, we used to do this cosmic seal routine a lot?" Her lips curved into a ghost of a smile. "Yes, we traveled worlds containing black tides or other corruptions. You were the anchor. Our synergy hinged on your presence." Jace swallowed. "I can't wrap my head around it." She offered a small shrug. "Memory is fragile, but essence remains. Whether your mind fully recalls or not, we feel you are still you." In the quiet that followed, an enormous wave of relief and belonging washed over Jace. He realized he wasn't alone in the universe after all. These five beings had searched for him across star systems. An insane concept, but undeniably real. He forced himself upright. "I need to do a thorough check of the station's logs and sensors. Make sure the ceiling is holding." They nodded. The second woman asked, "We help?" "Yes," he said softly. "I'd like that." They spent the next day in a flurry of monitoring. The station's scanners, pointed at the southwestern trench, showed stable readings, some residual darkness, but no further expansion. Jace updated the Planetary Research Institute with a vague explanation of unusual subsea floor activity, stabilized. He didn't mention telepathic alien women or a cosmic black tide. He couldn't handle that can of worms. Meanwhile, the Lalay discovered how to operate certain station machinery, assisted Jace with routine chores, and displayed an almost childlike fascination with each new piece of technology. He had to laugh when one of them tried to manipulate the water purifier telekinetically, nearly flooding the dome in the process. But these small comedic mishaps bonded them further. Jace taught them more standard words, while they reciprocated with glimpses of their culture. He learned they had traveled in a starship, but it had apparently broken or run out of power above Alara 7, forcing them to descend. They rarely needed rest or large amounts of food, relying partially on oceanic absorption. At night, Jace collapsed into bed with an odd warmth in his chest. He felt them telepathically across the dome, humming in unison, like the notes of a comforting lullaby. Chapter 11, Sharing Worlds. Days bled into weeks. Jace's initial shock gave way to a gentle acceptance that the Lalay were part of his new normal. They, who once seemed so alien, now felt like dear friends or family, though there were occasional awkward moments. Language barriers persisted, and their telepathic bonds sometimes triggered accidental glimpses of personal memories, leading to flustered apologies on both sides. He discovered that each Lalay sister, though physically similar, had distinct personalities. The second woman with branching lines was soft-spoken and loved studying his station hardware. Another, whose lines formed swirling geometric shapes, was curious about Earth's culture, peppering him with half-formed questions. Two others found joy in the hydroponic garden, devoting hours to touching the plants and telepathically sensing their slow, silent growth. The leader, leader, with her swirling aqua lines, became Jace's closest confidant. She was the one who first spoke, who guided him through synergy. Late at night, they would sit together near a wide observation window, watching the silent expanse of water. They rarely needed words. She would gently reach for his hand, telepathically showing him star systems she'd visited, wonders he could hardly imagine. Coral reefs orbiting a red dwarf star, crystalline lakes on a moon shaped by cosmic winds. In return, he tried to share glimpses of Earth. Green forests, cities lit at night, families gathered in bright kitchens. She sometimes looked wistful, as though yearning to experience such mundane human joys. One evening, they were discussing the possibility of returning to the southwestern trench if the seal showed any signs of weakening. Jace's voice was hesitant. Do you think the black tide might come back stronger? The leader's luminous eyes darkened. It may. Darkness remains in corners of space. We are watchers. But with you, we can hold it at bay. He exhaled. A flicker of worry gnawed at him. If you're watchers, always traveling, does that mean you'll leave me once we're sure this ocean is safe? Her expression softened. We do not abandon our anchor, unless you ask us to go. He felt an unexpected surge of relief. I'd rather you stay. A warm, wordless understanding passed between them. She leaned her forehead gently against his, a gesture of closeness that made his heart pound. For a moment, Jace closed his eyes and let the sense of belonging wash over him. Chapter 12, Surviving in a Close Call. Despite the general calm, the synergy training wasn't without mishaps. One afternoon, while practicing a minor synergy technique to purify a small patch of water they'd piped in from outside, Jace pushed too hard. The swirling energy short-circuited the station's main power trunk. Alarms blared, lights flickered, and oxygen scrubbers cut out for a nerve-wracking 5 minutes. He and the Lale scrambled to fix it. They managed a manual override, but the tension in the aftermath was palpable. Jace sank into a chair, head in his hands. I almost got us all killed. We can't keep messing around. The leader knelt beside him. You must be gentle. We guide you. We also learn. He turned bleary eyes on her. You'd think if I had all this experience in some past life, I just know how to do it. She offered a faint smile. Memory is buried deep. We will be patient. He realized how unwavering their faith in him was. They never doubted he was the same soul who once helped them. Their trust humbled him. Chapter 13, A Stormy Revelation. As weeks turned into a month, the undersea environment seemed stable. The southwestern trench's readings remained normal. In fact, Jace started to suspect the black tide might remain sealed indefinitely. He scheduled an official expedition with the sub's remote drone to confirm. But on the day before the drone deployment, when the station's sensors erupted in a flurry of warnings, the southwestern quadrant showed a sudden spike in seafloor tremors. Jace and the Lale rushed to the monitoring station. The leader's face fell. The black tide stirs again. His console displayed jagged lines. Seismic activity more violent than anything previously recorded. The fissure was cracking open once more. We need to go, Jace said, swallowing dread. Now. The Lale nodded. They prepared swiftly, this time with better planning. They loaded the sub with additional scanning modules and rigged a portable generator designed to harness synergy energy more reliably. The trek to the trench was tense. The ocean seemed unnaturally dark, as if tinted by a deepening gloom. Even with the sub's powerful headlights, Jace felt as though they were moving through the belly of a storm. Upon arrival, the scene was worse than before. Multiple cracks webbed out from the original fissure, seeping black fluid in an expanding zone. The water glinted with flecks of sickly red. Jace's heart hammered. If this escalated, it might consume entire swaths of ocean life. We can't let it spread, he breathed into the calm. The five took position around the sub once more. Jace donned his environment suit, ignoring his fear. He joined them outside, near the largest crack, hooking the portable generator to his belt so it hovered beside him. They formed the synergy circle underwater. With the generator acting as a stabilizer, Jace hoped they could push the black tide back more effectively. The Lale began their resonant hum. Their combined glow lit the depths in swirling bands of aqua and silver. Jace let the synergy flow through him, calling up that half-remembered cosmic skill. Waves of telepathic unity enveloped them. He saw fleeting glimpses of his past life again. The city, the final stand, the vow to watch over new worlds. The black tide raged, hurling out coils of inky darkness that battered their shimmering barrier. This time it felt stronger. Jace reeled as a spear of cold dread lanced into his mind, making him gasp. The generator beeped, nearly overloaded, But the Lale tightened the circle, channeling more telepathic energy. They poured raw will into Jace, trusting him to shape it. He grit his teeth, focusing on the image of sealing the cracks like cosmic stitching. Slowly, a radiant web extended from their synergy, snaking across the ocean floor. A crescendo of energy pulsed. The black tide howled, a psychic shriek. Then it recoiled, draining back into the largest fissure. The synergy's web sealed it shut with finality. Jace felt a snap as though a piece of the tide was severed. The substance churned in the water, fragmenting into harmless residue. Then, at last, the flickering lumps dissolved in swirling currents. Their synergy glow dimmed. Jace collapsed to his knees on the seafloor, panting, tears mixing with the sweat that clung to his brow inside the helmet. The Lyle pressed close, forming a protective ring. He sensed their relief, exhausted but triumphant. They had, once again, saved the ocean from that ancient corruption. Chapter 14, then. Home together, when they returned, the station's beep welcoming them felt like a gentle lullaby. Jace sealed the sub's airlock behind him and dragged himself to the lounge. The five followed, their features drawn from exertion. Yet a profound sense of peace permeated the station. They had faced down the cosmic threat a second time, forging synergy more potent than before. This time, Jace sensed a finality. Perhaps the black tide was banished for good, or at least for a long, long while. They slumped into chairs or just onto the floor, exchanging drained smiles. Jace eventually mustered the energy to rummage for rehydrated fruit and watery tea. He offered them around, and they quietly shared the small meal like an impromptu family dinner. The leader caught his eye. Now, perhaps it truly sleeps. We can remain, ensure it stays sealed. He exhaled, leaning back in his chair. I'd like that. I don't want to do this alone, and if it ever stirs again, I'll need your help. A soft chorus of agreement rippled through them telepathically. Jace felt them pressing gentle reassurance into his mind. He wasn't alone, and he never would be again. Chapter 15, The Next Horizon. The days that followed felt strangely bright. The southwestern trench's seismic readings returned to normal, eventually quieting to baseline levels. Jace, though still somewhat skeptical that the black tide could be truly gone, allowed himself to hope. He reported no major incidents to the Institute, though he was tempted to mention the curious phenomenon of unknown submarine substance dissipating. But the existence of the Lale, he kept that a secret for now. Humanity wasn't always welcoming to strangers, especially ones with telepathic powers. Meanwhile, life in the dome became a gentle routine shared by 6 instead of 1. They learned to cook and not blow out the power, to handle the station's housekeeping, to amuse themselves with Earth music, which Jace had stored on an old data drive. The Lele particularly adored melodic tunes that reminded them of ocean currents. Occasionally, in the early mornings, Jace woke to see them outside the dome, drifting in a circle, their arms linked. It looked like a dance in slow motion. He realized that, once upon a time, he used to move among them with equal grace. The memory flickered across his mind, suggesting that maybe one day he'd do so again. At night, he'd stand by the wide observation window, the leader at his side, both of them quietly watching the fish and eels swirl in the dome's floodlights. Sometimes they spoke of traveling beyond Alara 7, seeking out other corners of the galaxy where the black tide might linger. Other times they just stood in contented silence. He realized the ocean's hush, once so lonely, now felt welcoming. The swirl of water outside the dome was no longer a reminder of isolation, but a testament to the life he was protecting and sharing. And if that meant balancing the day-to-day tasks of a research technician with the occasional cosmic synergy ritual, so be it. With the Lele, Jace felt prepared for whatever came next. Thus, the caretaker of a lonely subaquatic station evolved into something more. An anchor for 5 alien watchers, a living seal against an ancient darkness, and above all, part of a newly formed family that spanned more than just oceans. It spanned entire star lanes and eons of shared purpose. He wouldn't have it any other way. Thanks for joining us through Jace's extraordinary journey beneath the waves of Alara 7. Did the intense underwater battle against the black tide keep you on the edge of your seat? What were your thoughts about Jace's transformation from a lonely technician into a cosmic guardian? Drop your comments below. I love hearing your personal opinions and reactions. Also, tell me where you're listening from. Our community spans the globe, and it's always great to see your hometowns represented. Remember, your subscription and support help bring even more incredible stories to life. Until next time, keep exploring, keep imagining, and I'll see you soon.